Good morning, good-looking people, and you're good-looking because you're always looking. And of course, you are finding the good in everything and in everybody. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a great and stressless week as we get ready and coming into Pesach. Today is the 14th of Nissan. It's a very special day. And today's Hayom Yom message is to also take a step back and enjoy the process. It's high anxiety, there's a lot going on, but we'll see from today's Hayom Yom and a small story at the end about the Rebbe that it's also important to embrace the process going into Pesach, not just showing up to the Seder and trying to get there as fast as you can. Let's read the Hayom Yom inside, and I'll give you some notes as we go along and share a nice story of the Rebbe. For the 14th of Nissan, this is Erev Pesach. First, a note. It says the search for chametz takes place after the evening service. And why that's important is because, again, whenever we see an instruction in the Hayom Yom, it's about sharing our customs, the Chabad customs, versus others. And there are Hasidim that would go to the Rebbe about what it says in Shulchan Aruch of when to do the b'dikas chametz. And the Rebbe would always say, what I'm sharing is the custom of the Rebbeim, and the Rebbeim would do the b'dika after Marv, correct. Continuing, it says, in the household of the Rebbe, it was customary not to appoint the Rav as an agent to sell the chametz, but rather to sell him the chametz directly, confirming that the transaction, even in such a case, by fulfilling the responsible guarantor. So the chiddush here, and what's being brought out is that instead of making the Rav your agent to sell to the guy or to the non-Jew who's going to buy the chametz, here what was being brought out is that we would sell it directly to the Rav, the rabbi, and then the rabbi takes it and sells it to that other person. The last part, my revered father, the Rebbe Rashab, used to be present with the Shmur Matzah was baked after midday on Erev Pesach. So the Rebbe Rashab would sit there and supervise the Shmur Matzah, which is known as the guarded matzah. The actual correct phrase is matzah shmura, but the Yiddish speakers used to call it Shmur Matzah, and essentially it's the process of watching over the flour, making sure there was no moisture, it didn't get wet until the process was over of making the matzah. And it says here, he would join in the hallel that is customary recited at that time, but would interrupt his recitation even in the middle of this chapter to give directions regarding the kneading, the baking, and the like. So very interesting is that the Rebbe Rashab used to sit there and supervise. And even if he was in the middle of Hallel and he had to give some directions, he would stop and talk in the middle of Hallel, which there's a note here that also says that it probably was when the Rebbe Rashab read the Hallel that he did not say the Hallel with a bracha in advance, knowing that he was going to interrupt the Hallel and give directions. Now going back to the theme of the day of enjoying the process, and there's a nice story of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe did not supervise the process of making matzah. He would spend the day before going ahead and giving out matzahs actually to the Hasidim as they would come by in line. And there was a nice story here that it says there was a Chassid in New Jersey, and he is a rabbi there, and he was always so busy with the preparation for his community for Pesach that he can never make it to New York to get in line to get that matzah from the Rebbe. So he sent his son, and his name was Yosef Yitzchak, his son, and his son went in line to meet the Rebbe to get a piece of shmur matzah to bring back for his family. And when it came to his turn, and the Rebbe handed him a piece of matzah, he asked the Rebbe, he said, can I have a special piece of shmur matzah for my father? And the Rebbe gave him another matzah for his father. And he saw how willing the Rebbe was willing to give him. He said, can I have for my mother? The Rebbe gave him again. Can I have for my Zaidi, my Bubby, my sister? And the Rebbe ended up handing him like 6 or 7 matzahs, and he was so excited, and he came home, and he shared with his father, look at all the matzahs that the Rebbe gave me. And immediately that disappeared because the Rebbe reprimanded him and said, the Rebbe's time is so busy, and we're not to take even an extra minute from him. Even getting a small piece of matzah would have been enough, and we would have broken it in pieces, and we could have shared it. And this boy who was so excited was deflated. Next year came along, and Yosef Yitzchak went back to the Rebbe to get matzah for that year. And when it came to his turn in line to the Rebbe, he already knew what happened last year, and he put his hand out and he got his one piece of matzah, and he started to move forward. And the Rebbe called him back and said, "What about for your dad and for your mother, for the Bubby and Zadie?" And the Rebbe handed him extra matzah again for his family. And how amazing is the story is that the Rebbe spent the time, instead of focusing on watching over the matzah, that he watched over his Hasidim to give them that time, to put that time into them, that they should have a great Yontif and enjoy. So have a great Yontif, have a great Pesach, and take a moment to enjoy the process and have a great and kosher Pesach. Talk to you soon.